Hi, and thanks for tuning in to Dirtbike Magazine. Today is going to be fun. We're going to do a little adventure riding with the 2024 KTM 790 Adventure. In case you missed it, we went a little gaga over the KTM 790 back in 2020. It was the best middleweight adventure bike in its class. Beyond that, we thought it was the best adventure bike period, at least from our perspective, which is that of an off-road rider. Back then, it had a base price of $12,699, which was only about 10% higher than a 500 dual sport bike. In later years, the 790 morphed into an 890. It got more features and a bigger price tag. The magic was still there, but by then there were other great bikes contending in the same category. Now, the 790's back. For 2024, KTM rolled back the calendar 4 years. Only this time, the price is $10,990, or about 10% less than a 500 dual sport bike. The 890 is still in the line with a price tag of $15,799. How is that possible? Well, China, that's how. But that's not what it sounds like. The KTM 790 is still 100% KTM. The parts still come from all the same places they always came from, mostly in Europe. They're simply assembled at the CFMoto factory in Hangzhou, China. We know the place well. We actually toured the factory a few years ago. It's as modern and sophisticated as anything in Europe or Japan. It does, however, have cheaper labor costs, and that's what allows the 790 to come in with a lower price and compete with bikes like the Honda Transalp and Yamaha T7. In order to separate the 790 and 890, KTM cleaned up the line. The base model of the 890 was the most street-oriented version, and it came with WP's less expensive Apex suspension. That bike is gone, with this new 790 taking its place. The new 790's Apex suspension has 7.9 inches of travel at both ends and is non-adjustable, aside from a 10-position preload cam in the rear. That compares to the 890 Adventure R's Explorer suspension, which has 9.5 inches of travel at both ends and is fully adjustable. The 890 has larger valves, higher compression, and of course, more displacement. It all adds up to a difference of about 10 horsepower. Even though KTM says the 790 is more of a street bike, it does come with off-road oriented Pirelli tires and some very impressive off-road features. The main attraction is still the electronic portfolio. The 790 has all the same technology that made it a game changer when it first came out. Only now, those features are options. First, there are 4 ride modes: street, rain, off-road, and rally. Each one of those has a different recipe that affects throttle response, slip control, anti-lock braking, and quick shift. There's also an option for cruise control. When you take delivery of the bike, all those options are enabled, but only for the first 1,000 miles. That's a trial period, so you can see what you like. If you want it all, the price is $735. For off-road, you only really need the Rally Pack, which sells for $210. Trust us, you want that. The slip control is the best in the business. Another key aspect of the 790 is its physical size. The bike seems much smaller and lighter than any other twin-cylinder bike in the adventure bike world. It's around 450 pounds without fuel, but the fuel tank configuration is what makes it special. The 5.3-gallon fuel tank stretches from the filler in front of the seat all the way down around the motor. Virtually all other adventure bikes carry their fuel up high. The 790 feels like a mini bike compared to most others in its class. The Yamaha T7 in particular towers above the KTM like a giant. The 790 seat is only a little bit lower, but there's no mistaking the fact that it has a lower center of gravity. So it's in the most difficult conditions that the 790 is at its best. If you truly take your adventure bike off-road, you inevitably get into those difficult situations in rocks or sand where your feet come out and the going is slow. At those times, the 790 has a very low intimidation factor. Early in our experience with the bike, we wondered if that fuel tank was vulnerable to punctures from rocks and debris. Now, after 4 years, we still haven't seen that happen. At higher speeds, the low CG isn't as critical, and the suspension can feel a little short-legged. Even though the suspension is not adjustable, it's not bad in moderately rough terrain. It takes a pretty big impact to make it bottom. The limiting factor, in fact, isn't damping or action as much as travel. WP does not offer upgrades for this level of Apex suspension, so if you want to take the 790 in real off-road whoops, you'll have to look to the aftermarket. When you open the throttle on a big twin with offset crank pins, you get a sound that is amazing. The 790 is a bike that you just gotta love just from that point of view alone. That's combined with lots and lots of power. It has a mauler of a motor that makes torque from first twist all the way to almost 10,000 RPM. Here's where the optional ride modes become so important. When you're riding on loose dirt and that beautiful motor is encouraging you to get brave, things can get sketchy pretty quickly. Slip control keeps you from getting too far over your head. The reason the KTM system is so good is that it's almost invisible. It doesn't miss, stutter, or bog. It just has reduced output when it senses wheel spin. You can use handlebar buttons on the fly to adjust the level of intervention from 1 to 9. KTM has another optional traction aid called Motorcycle Traction Control, which incorporates lean angle and even wheelie control. This has 4 levels and seems more street-oriented. Then there's quick shift and cruise control, making for a very complicated set of electronic features. If you're interested in the off-road stuff, like we said earlier, that comes in the Rally Pack option for $210. There's more to unpack here. The 790 is a premium level bike with lots and lots of features. We can forgive KTM for charging extra for some electronic upgrades. If that's what it takes to bring in the price for less than a $450 motocross bike, then so be it. We still feel this is the top of the list of bikes to consider for the most serious off-road adventurers. The real question is whether you want to go for the 790 or the 890. Even if you get all the electronic options, the 890 is still priced about $4,000 higher. As far as quality and construction, we feel there's absolutely no difference. There's also very little difference in power, so it all comes down to suspension. Some riders might feel that's enough. In either case, it seems like the KTM stiffest competition is KTM. Check in with us in coming weeks for more adventure bikes, as well as dual sport, off-road, and motocross features. We cover it all, and you can check it out anytime at dirtbikemagazine.com. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for watching.